Your agency was saying, quote, the Salafists, the Muslim Brotherhood and Al-Qaeda in Iraq are the major forces driving the insurgency in Syria. In 2012, the US was helping coordinate arms transfers to those same groups. Why did you not stop that?
It was a decision. I think it was a willful decision.
A willful decision to go support an insurgency that had Salafists, Al-Qaeda and Muslim Brotherhood?
A willful decision to do what they're doing, which you'd have to really ask the president, what is it that he actually is doing?
That was General Michael Flynn several months ago on Al Jazeera talking about the fact that President Obama gave them orders to basically build up ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and that was the set policy. And the interviewer says, oh, you mean they didn't know what was happening? He says, no, they consciously told us to do that. Well, this is the information we had 3 years ago from military, high level and low level, giving us the same information. And the fact that General Dempsey, on the eve of airstrikes against Syria, went to the White House and said the military from the brass on down are not going to be Al-Qaeda's Air Force. And we saw Senator Ted Cruz go public, we saw Senator Rand Paul go public and make similar statements that our military and our people do not want to be Al-Qaeda's Air Force. Now, since then, we've had the schizophrenic or helter-skelter or oxymoronic policy is a better term, of Turkey and other countries funding ISIS and Al-Qaeda and al-Nusra, and the West giving them weapons, TOW missiles, Stinger missiles, you name it, Hillary Clinton namely. Benghazi was just one part of that. It's ongoing. At the same time that the United States military and CENTCOM has been giving intel to the Russians, giving intel to the Syrians, giving intel to other people that are actually fighting ISIS. Now, we've known this. We've had CIA whistleblowers on, like Tosh Plumlee. We've had Colonel Schaefer on to talk about it. InfoWars has been at the very forefront of exposing it. But now, in a review of Seymour Hersh, the two-time Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, his new book, Military to Military, the London Review of Books, it's also in other publications like New Yorker, have excerpts of his new book interviewing other generals, as well as Flynn, breaking all this down. I mean, this is incredible. And mainstream media almost spins it like it's not a counter coup happening with the military saying no to treason, arming Al-Qaeda and ISIS. But that's what it is. And so then the State Department separately, just as Tosh Plumlee exposed 3 years ago, has to use its import-export power to order weapons transfers that's even above the Pentagon and the CIA. The military may have its problems and certainly, aren't perfect, but they don't want to arm Al-Qaeda to murder every Christian group in Syria. They don't want to overthrow our allies, Egypt, and put the Muslim Brotherhood in that's Al-Qaeda light. They understand this is directly against America's interest, and it's a war crime. And again, it doesn't even help our country or even our own elites. Why are they doing this? Well, the argument is if Assad's an enemy of the West, even though he tried to help us on 9/11 and other events, but still listed as terrorist, if he's a supposed enemy, take him down regardless. But you don't take him down and then put people in that are 50 times worse. So there's a major fight going on for the heart and soul of America. And I got to tell you, I'm always hearing this talk about let's have a military coup, let's stop the globalists that way. Military coups almost always turn out worse than what you already had. But with the situation in World War II in 1944, when the German high command knew that what Hitler was doing was going to destroy Germany, that they'd lose millions of more people, that the Soviets were going to occupy them, that the Russians were going to come in, they moved to eliminate Hitler. Now, I'm not saying anybody should go after Obama because he's just a puppet, but the neocon globalist groups that he represents and the Clintons and others are steering this country towards World War III, not just in Syria, but in Ukraine against Russia. They are a clear and present danger. And I can only liken what's happening to a soft Valkyrie or a soft counter coup, because it's not a coup. We already have foreign globalist corporate hedge fund interest and their front people who aren't even military playing with stuff that could cause World War III very easily. And it's our own military that's usually pushing for war in the days of Curtis LeMay wanting nuclear war with the Russians and L.L. Emnitzer. Usually I'm like, let's have the statesmen hold back some of the war hawks at the Pentagon. It's the war hawks at the Pentagon, time and time again, quietly trying to stop what is leading, most analysts say, towards a larger confrontation with Russia that could easily lead to thermonuclear war. They called the Cold War World War III. So really, this is World War IV, a hot war that we're on the verge of. And World War I started in proxy wars. World War II started in that as well. We are going down a very, very dangerous path. But the good news is the globalists have gone too far. They've jumped the shark. I mean, it takes a lot of nerve. They've got to think we're really stupid to try to openly overthrow all these Middle Eastern countries, including our allies, create failed states in places like Libya and Syria. And then Hillary gets in the Democratic debates 2 weeks ago and says, oh, Libya and Syria are right where they're supposed to be, a failed state, breaking them up in pieces and then giving part of it to the radical Wahhabist out of Saudi Arabia. That is working with terrorists. That is opening the door to them. And that brings us into part 2 of this. Why would they bring in millions of jihadis, invaders out of Syria, people that came in to invade Syria into Europe, hundreds of thousands in the U.S., knowing they're going to attack? Well, they think we're so stupid that when the jihadis do attack, they'll take our guns, our liberties, our freedoms, instead of stopping the flow of the folks that are attacking us. They're going to use this threat. And MSNBC, The Morning Joe, just today, came out and said, don't worry about the Islamic threat. Worry about white gun owners. They're the big crime rate. Despite the fact, and we'll show some of these on screen, crime rates are down over 50+% since 1991, and white males consist of the lowest crime rate of any male group. Look it up for yourself. But, there's an epidemic of white males killing everyone. This is an inversion of reality.
You're telling Muslim Americans they all need to come out and talk about the tiny percentage of their community that has kind of, quite frankly, wreaked havoc. But yet, you look at the data of white men with guns wreaking havoc on this country. Why aren't white men all coming forward? Why don't you call on them to do that?
I actually am doing a lot of things.
And finally, in the hypocrisy department, Hillary Clinton during the Democratic debate this weekend said that Donald Trump's being used in ISIS recruiting videos. The entire media checked it. It's not true. Turns out the Clintons are being used in ISIS recruiting videos. Turns out the Clintons have been giving weapons through Benghazi to ISIS and on other occasions. So this shows how dumb they think we are. Hillary out Brian Williams years ago, claiming that she'd been in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, and had been shot at in the air, shot at on the ground. And then they cut to the CBS footage. Nothing happened that day when she got off the tarmac onto the red carpet. She's a liar. So why is she allowed to blame Donald Trump for ISIS when out of everybody that's involved in this, she, as the head of the State Department, literally quarterbacked the operation?
What difference at this point does it make?
Now, David Knight's going to break down more excerpts of Cy Hirsch's book here in just a moment, right here in this studio. But we wanted to really focus in on this tonight because it's a big deal. This is going on behind the scenes, and it gives me a lot of faith that there are still a lot of good people in our government and in our system. But they need us, we the people, to stand up and support what they're doing as well. Because if the fact that criminals have hijacked our government are funding terrorists and letting them into our country to destabilize us ever gets out to the general public, it could cripple the globalists forever. We are at a key point now, ladies and gentlemen, and this is not a coup because the globalists have already taken over. They're illegitimate. The military is engaged in a stealth, very moderate counter coup against what the establishment's doing, and it is a big, big deal. And truth is stranger than fiction. I never imagined that we'd see resistance to this tyranny coming from these quarters, but it is happening. Alex Jones, signing off for Infowars.com. Back to David Knight.
Thanks, Alex. And that was Cy Hirsch's Military on Military. He points out about military resistance to our government's policies in terms of arming and equipping ISIS. He says that resistance dates back to the summer of 2013. It comes from Defense Intelligence Agency, Joint Chiefs of Staff, then General Martin Dempsey, all talked about how the fall of the Assad regime would lead to chaos and potentially to serious takeover by jihadis. They say they had an all-source appraisal. That means that it was coming from signals intelligence, from satellite intelligence, from human intelligence, pointing out that there was a covert U.S. program to arm and support the moderate rebels fighting Assad. It had been co-opted by Turkey. It had morphed into an across-the-board technical arms and logistical program for all of the opposition, including al-Nusra and the Islamic State, ISIS. The so-called moderates, he says, had evaporated, and the Free Syrian Army was nothing but a rump group stationed at an air base in Turkey. He said the assessment was bleak. There was no viable moderate opposition to Assad, and the U.S. was arming extremists.
Shane Steiner's involvement with InfoWarsLife.com truly happened in an organic way. I went to high school with Shane, his brother, knew his parents well, and he was visiting the office once, hadn't been to the office in years, and said, wow, I notice you're making and selling supplements. Do these really work? Because I've tried a lot of supplements as a workout enthusiast, and I really think most of them are hype. And I said, here, take some home, try it. Well, a few weeks later, he came in blown away and said, I want to buy 3 boxes of this stuff to give my friends and family. It's simply amazing. He said, why does it work so well? And I said, listen, go to InfoWarsLife.com, watch the informational videos with Dr. Group and others. They understand how it all works. I know that it works for me. That's all I understand. The science, the facts, the research, people's testimonials, they're all on InfoWarsLife.com. You can check it out for yourself.
I wanted to go to the gym. I wanted to push myself and work out harder, and that led to me being able to come out and do stuff like the barefooting and the surfing and stuff like that, which I've never done. I never would have done that 2 years ago.
Shane has said over and over again, more than just libido and energy, it made him want to get into the gym more. It made him want to get in better shape. And believe me, the Steiners have amazing genetics. His brother is a world champion steer wrestler. His dad, Bobby Steiner, is a famous world champion bull rider. They've got natural genetics. But when you added this to the mix, in Shane's own words, it took him to the next level. Shane noticed the mental clarity. Bobby was able to work out longer and gain muscle mass. He's already completely shredded. I gotta admit, for me, the biggest effect has been libido. Now, I've never claimed to have a body like some beach model, but back when I was 20, 22 years old and worked out every day, I looked great. But over the years, and being married, having 3 kids, and working 18 hours a day, I gained basically 100 pounds. And it's been a long process losing that weight in the last 4 years. But if you look at the photos and the videos of what I looked like 4 or 5 years ago versus today, the results are dramatic. I'd already cleaned up my diet. I was working out hard, but I'd only lost about 20 pounds. It was adding the other key ingredients from InfoWarsLife.com that helped me personally go to the next level and shed another 35 pounds.
This has actually made me feel so good that here lately, about a year ago, I started training jiu-jitsu, and that kind of led to doing some boxing and kickboxing. I mean, it's amazing that 2 years ago, I was on the couch and couldn't even tie my shoes, and now I'm training with MMA fighters and just doing stuff that I never thought that I would be doing ever again. So Super Male Vitality has allowed me to do some amazing things, and if it has those kind of effects for me, I know that it will do great things for you. So just try Super Male Vitality. I promise you, you'll love it.
And finally, let's look at Anthony Gucciardi, Infowars.com reporter. He also works with Dr. Group and others, helping develop the newest, most cutting-edge, high-quality supplements. Let's take a look at what happened when he tried to barefoot ski for the first time with the Steiners. And remember, we're not making fun of him. He had the will to get in the arena, and he's lost more than 10 pounds in the last few years of fat and gained more than 10 pounds of muscle. And Anthony chalks it up to Super Male Vitality as well. Bottom line, folks, you want to discover the power of Super Male Vitality and Super Female Vitality for yourself by visiting InfoWarsLife.com today or by calling toll-free 888-253-3139.